Michael Kroger, have you downloaded the app?
I have, Andrew, and I recommend to others to do the same. This virus will be with us for quite some time to come. And rather than if someone gets it, them being asked, who were you with, where did you go? And it's all very vague over a 2-week, 3-week period of who they saw. And most of the people they won't know because they'll have been in supermarket queues, etc. It's much better to do it this way. And it's an ingenious piece of equipment. I mean, the mind of the person that invented this app is extraordinary, or the people. But yes, of course. And I think others should do it too.
Steve Conroy, former Communications Minister, have you downloaded this app?
No, look, I haven't downloaded the app. I'm yet to be convinced that the government is capable of protecting the security. And frankly, I don't care what the Chief Medical Officer's views are on cyber security, any more than he would care about my views on health matters. The government have been unable to defend the Parliament House, a range of its own departments from state-based cyber security hacks and intrusions. And I'm yet to be convinced that this data will only ever be available to a health professional. I'm not suggesting this is a police issue. I'm simply, from my experience around the cyber security debate, the Australian government haven't been able to provide any assurances, and frankly, they're not really trying to.
Michael Kroger, none of those arguments matter with you?
No, because the information's not all important, Steve. So you go to work, you walk around the streets to buy some things, you go home, you visit the local place to buy some food, you go to the 7-Eleven, you buy the newspapers at the newsagent, you might be on an errand to see a family member if they're sick or needing support, you go and visit someone over a business deal. What is terribly sensitive about that? I mean, do the Chinese really want to get that information, or any other foreign government? Boy, if that's the best of information they're after, they're in a lot of trouble. So, no, I don't think. And in any case, it doesn't record your movements. It's deleted after 21 days. It only records who you're in contact with. So it wouldn't actually tell you where someone's been, but only the other people that have been in those places. Is there a great security concern about that? Quite frankly, Andrew, there is not. For goodness sake.
Steve?
No, look, you might want to accept that the data being collected, as Michael describes it, isn't highly national security sensitive, but the rest of his arguments are just complete rubbish. The Chinese don't need to wait till the 20th day to go hunting, or the Russians or any other state-based actor that wants to do it. I've not joined many of the social media platforms because I don't agree with their privacy policies. And so some people say, oh, you've downloaded all these apps already that track you. Well, actually, I haven't. It's not possible to live in the current digital world without some degree of a footprint, but I've worked on a basis for a long time of having a minimum digital footprint that I can, and I'm not going to join in the government's when it knows, if you ask a cybersecurity expert, that it can't actually protect this information if a state-based actor wants to penetrate the system.
And Michael Kroger, only 9 new infections over 24 hours to 3 p.m. today. It's been in in single digits and sometimes up to 20 over the last, week and a half, 2 weeks. Incredible, though. Some states are saying, well, look, now we will start relaxing. You've got Western Australia saying you can now meet in groups of 10. That'll bring it in line with South Australia. But do you think we're moving fast enough on loosening some of these restrictions, given the enormous harm that's being done socially, but particularly to the economy, to people's jobs?
No, well, it's costing the economy in GDP lost about $40 to $50 billion a week. Businesses are being smashed all over the country. Pubs, restaurants, cinemas, retail, gyms, wherever you go. And there's no publicity about those things. They're all just sitting there. People are just sitting there like, automatons doing the bidding of the government. And no, the West Australian government have done absolutely the right thing. They're leading the pack. But in Victoria, golf courses are closed still, which is preposterous. Of course you should reopen sport. Of course you should reopen the AFL and rugby. Of course you should probably have 10 or 20,000 people at the MCG. You should reopen cinemas and have people sitting 2 or 3 seats away from each other, as you should in restaurants. and retail stores. You keep your social distancing, you wash your hands, all of those things, but people are being destroyed, businesses are being destroyed all over the country, and you know, in Victoria there's been no move. There has been in Northern Territory, of course. Well, there's not been a single death in the Northern Territory, Andrew. South Australia, of course, you know, they're doing well. Western Australia, of course, leading the pack. And Queensland are starting. Victoria and New South Wales have got to start moving. There are very few new infections, and there's a lot more that should be done. As you know, I said the first 2 weeks in May would be the time to move, and now is the time to move, but at a greater speed that's being done at the minute. And finally, Andrew, can I say this? 18 people die every hour in this country. 18 people die. 9 more people will die in the next 5 hours than have died in the entire 2 months of the coronavirus.
But as soon as you focus on individual deaths, everyone gets very emotionally involved and very frightened.